Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for today's training on navigating benefits. We are very happy today to have Maria Huerta from Second Harvest of Silicon Valley to provide us with an overview of CalFresh. And we really appreciate your time in joining us for this morning's training. My name is Monica Porter, and I'm joined by my colleague Mia Nishwari. We work at Homebase, which is a technical assistance provider for housing and homeless service providers in Santa Clara County. And we are very happy today to join you for this training. We will be assisting in the background with some technical support. So feel free to be in touch if you have any questions. Just a couple of brief reminders. Today is part of a training series around navigating mainstream benefits. And please note that you do need to register for each day separately in this Zoom world that we are still living in. Medi-Cal, Medicare, and Covered California will be split across 2 days. And this training is going to be covering COVID-19 related changes. So please do be on the lookout for registration announcements shortly. Just a little bit of housekeeping for you today. I'm sure that you're used to joining us on Zoom, but a couple of quick notes. We are recording this training and we will make the recordings available on the COC website. The chat box will not be recorded. You are all muted now, and we ask that you please stay muted to minimize background noise to facilitate everyone's learning. There are a few points in the training when we will pause for questions, and so we invite you to please utilize the chat to let us know if you have any questions, and we will address those during breaks. Also, feel free to use the chat box to message one of us at Homebase directly if you have any technical difficulties, and we're happy to assist you. We also want to note that we do have closed captioning, and you can access that by clicking on the bottom menu. So just as a final note, to get us all used to the chat function, we invite you to say good morning and share with us your name and your organization and something that you would like to learn today. Or we can just start with your name and your organization. Great. Good to see folks. And we've got some responses coming in. Wonderful. Learning more about home delivery, signing up clients for benefits, benefits for veterans. Good to see folks. Thank you all so much for joining, and I will turn it over to Maria for our main event. Maria, I think you're on mute. There we go.
There you go. I'm unmuted now. All right. Thank you all so much for allowing me to be here and present to you all. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to speak to so many organizations at the same time and be able to answer any questions you may have in regards to the food bank or CalFresh. My name is Maria Huerta. I work for Second Harvest of Silicon Valley. We will be pausing throughout the presentations to answer any questions that you may have. We will be talking about several things. So I just want to make sure that I'm able to address your questions. Feel free to put those questions on the chat room. All right. Give me 1 second. Not able to move to the next slide for some reason. So give me 1 second. I may need some, let's see, why am I not being, oh, there you go. All right, so and let me just move a couple things out of the way. All right, so our goals today, as I mentioned to you, I will talk to you about our overview of the food programs we have at Second Harvest Food Bank, and then we will have a really brief overview of CalFresh. Because we only have about an hour to cover this information, so it won't have everything. We'll also talk about the pandemic response in regards to CalFresh and also how to communicate with clients when it comes to CalFresh and dispelling myths, since we know there's a lot of myths out there in the community. And then at the end, we'll talk about how you could connect clients to the food resources that we have. Let me see. Next slide. I'm not sure why I'm having an issue going to the next slide. And should I stop a share and have you share and just go to the, okay.
Sure. Would you
It
like to
is
go to
just
Plan B?
not moving. Let's go to plan B. All right,
Okay,
so let me just stop my share and sorry about that.
no
In the
problem at
meantime, I'll
all.
start reading the chats.
Okay.
Perfect. We could go to the next slide. All right, so our mission is a hunger-free community. And next slide. And then our mission is to lead our community to ensure that anyone who needs a healthy meal can get one. We could go to the next slide. All right, so what do we do? So we serve clients throughout San Mateo and Santa Clara County. This is really anywhere from Gilroy all the way to Daly City, and we provide nutritious food to about 500,000 people every single month. We do this, we obviously can't do this alone. We do this with 300 community partners at 900 sites and where we distribute the food, and with the awesome help of our volunteers. Right now, we do know that, and this is before the pandemic, we had 1 in every 4 people are at risk of hunger. We do know that number because of the pandemic has grown. Go to the next slide. So for free food resources, I'll give you an overview of the programs that we have. So as mentioned, we do have free nutritious groceries out in the community. We do have over 450 sites, as mentioned, in San Mateo and Santa Clara County. Some of our distributions have converted to drive-through distributions. We have about 130 drive-through distributions so that we could safely provide food to our clients. Our goal really is to serve about 50% of the food that we are giving to our clients are fresh produce and vegetables. And about 25% of the food that they're receiving is some sort of protein and dairy. And here are a couple of the pictures of the food that clients do receive. And we are typically saving about $250 worth of free grocery programs. So we also connect our clients to prepare meals in the community. We do know that not everyone has access to either cooking facilities or are able to prepare their own meals at home. So we do have about 30 locations throughout San Mateo and Santa Clara County. Because of the pandemic, these prepare meals are to go. And I did see a question about home delivery. So again, in response to the pandemic, we do realize that we had a very vulnerable population, right? So we do offer home delivery, but this program, I just wanna make sure that I overemphasize, is only for anyone that is physically or mentally disabled and is not able to pick up food themselves. And they also do not have someone else that can pick up food for them. Um, and we do provide food twice a month, and they do get about 3 boxes worth of food, what I mentioned before, and you saw the pictures of what they're kind of receiving. But again, we have to make sure that this is a person that physically cannot leave their home. I'm not saying homebound, but they also don't have someone else that can pick up food for them. Next slide. So our eligibilities for food programs, we want to make it extremely easy for people to get connected to our programs. So we really are allowing anyone who needs food to get connected to our programs. They can self-certify who they are, so they could just and their also their income. So we are asking that they are 275% below the federal property level. But again, they could self-certify. If someone is telling you that they need help with food, we definitely can help them. We do know that maybe 1 month they're fine, and the next month they may need to get connected to our site. So again, we are allowing anyone to get connected regardless of age or their zip code. So they can attend any of our distributions. Um, and again, they do not need to provide proof of anything. So they don't need to show an ID of any sort or residency or anything. We just want to make sure that we are eliminating all barriers. If you could go to the next question. Next slide, I mean. All right, so before I actually move to CalFresh, is there any questions? So I'm not sure if we go quickly to the chat. All right. Um, so who can you contact, right? So if you do have clients that want to get connected to our programs at the end, towards the end of the presentation, they can call the food bank. We do have our 1-800 hotline number, which I will be connecting you with. So I used to see a lot. Give me 1 second. No, they do not need a doctor's note to get connected to our home delivery program. The best I'm seeing here, there's a question about you'll like to find out the meal sites. I could definitely get you that list. At the end, you'll see my contact information and you could just email me and then I'll make sure to provide you with that list. One thing is that we do urge clients to give us a call at our hotline just because we want to make sure that we're giving them the most up-to-date information. We normally don't give you a list of all our distributions because things change all the time. So some of our distributions may have to cancel, reschedule. Let's just say it starts raining or fire seasons. So there is a lot of cancellation, and we do ask a lot of our clients to call us directly to make sure that they're getting the most up-to-date information. Do you have any other questions? And if I didn't cover your questions, let me just go through it really quick. All right, I think that was it. And if I didn't answer your question, I'll make sure to just go through the chat and answer you directly. I'll send you an email. Yep. So we'll move on to CalFresh. So next slide. So CalFresh is another program that we do help our clients apply for this service. What is CalFresh? CalFresh is the same thing as some people may know it as SNAP, EBT, food stamps. But this really it was also known as food stamps. So a lot of people get confused whenever you're addressing CalFresh. Like, what is that? So normally when I'm talking or presenting or talking to any clients in the community, I make sure to almost mention all those names. It's the same thing as SNAP and also food stamps, EBT, and really does provide food assistance to low-income individuals, and they're able to get these benefits through a card that's called the EBT, which is Electronic Balance Transfer, for all those that didn't know. Next slide. So why do we care about CalFresh? Why is CalFresh important? So we do know, as I mentioned, there's so many people in San Mateo and Santa Clara that are at risk of hunger. And we know that even the food programs that we provide free in the community are not enough. And CalFresh really gives them that really independence of being able to go to grocery stores and buy the food that they need and that they like. And really, this also helps boost the economy for every dollar that goes out there. So this is why we do care about CalFresh. We want to make sure that we're talking to our clients about it. Not everyone qualifies for CalFresh. I do know that, and this is why I'm really happy that I work for this great organizations where if someone doesn't qualify for CalFresh, they could get connected to the food bank programs, which I just gave you an overview. We could go to the next slide. So how do you use CalFresh? It's super similar to a debit card. The card has the client's name and they can choose their own personal PIN. It's super discreet. At the end, they'll get a receipt once they purchase the food, and they'll have on their card how much is left, any benefits for their next visit to the grocery store. So where can you use CalFresh? So right now you could use CalFresh at a lot of the stores, really grocery stores that we have in Safeway, Lucky, Trader Joe's, Costco, small grocery stores, some farmers markets, some restaurants. One thing I didn't update this slide is that now they can also purchase food online through Amazon and also through Safeway for pickup. So that's super exciting. This was also in response to the pandemic. So I'm going to go over a few more sites about CalFrench, and just know that this is just a super brief um, information about CalFresh. So there's a lot more to with each slide. Okay, next slide. So CalFresh, eligible foods, right? What is eligible? So really anything that is fresh produce, canned items, dairy. However, so you could pretty much buy anything in the store as long as it's food, as long as it's not hot already. So what you can't buy is like hot and prepared food, medication, vitamins, alcohol, household items, pet food, clothing. You wouldn't be able to buy that in the grocery store. But really anything that is food, you're able to purchase with your EBT card. Go to the next slide. So the overview of the application process is one, outreach, right? We want people to know about CalFresh and talk about this with either other people to find, to apply for the program. Once we do that is we do pre-screen them and try to get all the verifications that the county may potentially ask for. And then we do submit the application. We can help the client submit the application. And then once we submit the application, the county will review that and contact the client. And they normally get approved or denied within 30 days to find out if they got their benefits. Right now, in response to the pandemic, they are taking a little bit longer than 30 days, kind of like 40 days, it seems like. But we could definitely help the clients walk them through the process. All right, next slide. So we'll touch again upon CalFresh eligibility. Again, this is just the very tip of the iceberg, but I just want to go over a few things with you all. And make sure you keep on writing any questions you may have, and I'll just check towards the end of this CalFresh slides. So one thing our food bank does is that we pre-screen clients. We want to see if they're potentially eligible for the benefits. If a client goes directly to the county, they will take their applications. If they come to us directly, we can pre-screen them to see if they're potentially eligible for the program. I find this very helpful because if we find out that a client is most likely not eligible, we let them know. And instead of going through the whole process and then later on finding out that they're not eligible, um, that's not the best experience for the client. So this definitely saves time. And then we also let them know what kind of documentation they may need. So we also try to prepare the client for the type of questions and documentation that they may need. And it takes less than a minute to do. So when you're talking to your clients, one food insecurity question you could ask is within the last 12 months, have you worried about wherever food would run out before you got money to buy more? So this is one question. And here's a couple more, but really if someone is struggling to purchase food, most likely they're probably potentially eligible for the program based off of their income. Next slide. So just some basic eligibility. So the household combination income must not exceed 200% of the federal poverty level. And the next slide, I'll show you what that looks like. So the income is calculated different for mixed document households. Just keep that in mind. And at least one member of the household must be a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident to be potentially eligible for the program. Um, also the residency, so they have to physically reside in the county that they're applying for. So if they live in Santa Clara County, they must apply with Santa Clara County. Right now, we're working with a lot of students, and I know a lot of students who move back home and they're going to Santa Cruz or other areas. If they live in Santa Cruz, they would have to apply for CalFresh with Santa Cruz County, if that makes sense. All right, we could go. Oh, so I do see a question here from Myra that I just do want to address right away. So we do have at least one person again in the household needs to be a U.S. citizen, meaning if there is a mixed status household, we have like two parents, and we have one child that's a citizen, and the parents are undocumented. The person that would be eligible would be the child. So the child, you could apply for the child if that makes sense. Next slide. So here are the income eligibility. So you could see the monthly gross income and also the net income. Sometimes when you're working with clients, they are maybe eligible. I'm sorry, going back to gross income. So usually when you ask someone for their gross income, they don't know what gross income is. But if you ask them for their net income, that's something that you could kind of have an idea if they may potentially be eligible. And if you go to the next slide, here are the benefit amounts. This has been updated due to the pandemic, and it's been raised. And I have another slide, but just know that this is the maximum CalFresh allowance. So for one person, they could get the maximum amount of $204. And then you could see for a family of four, you get up to $680. And this has changed. It's been increased by 15% up to September 30th. They will be receiving an additional benefit. Next slide. So what is a household? So I touched upon it a little bit. I know that obviously the cost of living in the Bay Area is extremely high. So I do know a lot of families live together in order to save money. So really a household is anyone that purchases and prepares food together. So if you live with a whole bunch of roommates, but everyone is buying and preparing your own food, you wouldn't necessarily be applying with your roommates, right? If there's one household and there's several households living in the same house, so you have several families in maybe each room, you only want whoever is applying with you is the person who is, again, purchasing and preparing food. A couple other things important to note is if there is a child living at home, they must be, give me a second, let me just move this here. They have to be 22 to apply on their own. If they're under 22 living at home, they must apply with their parents. A married couple living together must also apply together. So just remember, household can have eligible and ineligible members and still qualify for the benefits. So benefits will be allowed meant only for those that are that do qualify. Okay, next slide. So students, I did want to touch upon a little bit on students. So what is considered a student? So this is really anyone, people between the ages of 18 and 50 who are physically and mentally fit and who are enrolled at least half time in the college. And really what is considered college or university is really a business, a trade, technical, or vocational school, anything that requires a post-high school level that would normally require a diploma or anything that's equivalent to that. Next question. So I do see some questions in chat and I'll hopefully be able to get to most of them afterwards. So for eligibility for students is, so they can find an exemption if they apply for any of these. So if they are employed at least 20 hours a week, if they're enrolled, and I'll go over that in a little bit, on a state federal program that increases employability, if they have programs that increase employability for current and former foster youth, if they receive Cal Grant. So here's a list that if you are working with a student, if they meet any of these, they meet the exemptions. Okay. If you could go to the next slide. So I'm going to kind of give you all a scenario. If you could just kind of write it down in the chat box what you think, that would be great. So we have a married couple, Joey and Zoe. They want to know if they can apply for CalFresh. They both are 21 and they have a 4-month-old baby. They recently moved to Joey's parents' house. They both have jobs and they pay Joey's parents for rent and purchase and prepare their own food. They want to know if they can apply for CalFresh on their own without including Joey's parents. What do you tell them? Can they apply on their own, or do they have to apply with Joey's parents? So if you all could just put on the chat, give you a minute to read that. Okay, so I'm just kind of seeing what everyone's putting. I'm seeing on their own, on their own. Okay. All right. So as you remember, if your child is living at home and is under the age of 22, they must apply with their parents, regardless if they have their own family. So even if they have their own child, even if they're paying rent, they will have to still apply with Joey's parents. All right, we could go to the next slide. I think I had like a correct and wrong or something like that. So yeah, it was no, try again. All right, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna try going on the chat and trying to answer some of your questions. So just give me a second so I could just go back. Oh, thank you for doing this. All right. Do we serve Sonoma County? No, we're only serving San Mateo or Santa Clara County. However, if clients do call our hotline, we are able to connect them to the correct county. Does any of the food resources in Santa Clara, again, in Santa Cruz area or county? So we are only serving both San Mateo and Santa Clara County, but we can connect the clients to other areas. Can you use it at an ethnic food stores, or do you need to confirm by asking the store? So really, as long as the store is accepting EBT card, they're able to buy food at that location. So I know there was a question, will these slides be available later? I believe so. They will be emailed. What are the eligibility requirements? Hold on, I just moved in. What are the eligibility requirements for children? Again, if they are legal permanent residents or citizens and they are 200% below the federal poverty level, while their parents, they may potentially be eligible for the program. What if if they are asylum seekers, are they eligible? They may potentially be eligible. Every case is a little different, so we would have to talk to that client. I see a question here. If renting a room in a home, do you need to include the others in the household? You wouldn't include the other people in the household unless you are sharing food with them. So I see another question here. What does physically and mentally fit mean? Can clients have health conditions and mental conditions? So for this is for students. So for students, they have to be physically and mentally fit. To be considered to then try to meet one of the exemptions. So if a student has any, if they're disabled, they don't need to meet the exemptions that I listed. Is there any other questions that you all may have? So again, if we didn't, let me just see who. So for the whose income are they looking for? Do they factor parents' income in consideration of eligibility for the child? Yes. So for a household, we look at everyone is in the household and we want to try to find out where they're getting their income from. So this could be the parents' work, it could be unemployment, disability. This could be someone receiving a monthly allowance. This could also be child support. So all this is considered income. It could be through work, which is considered earned, or it could be unearned, which is pretty much everything else that's not work. I'm just going to read a couple more questions. If a family is applying for U.S. residence, will this harm their immigration status? So this is a really hot topic that I'll cover in a little bit throughout the slide right now. So I'm going to move on. I'm just checking time right now. Yes, I will move on to the next slide. If I wasn't able to answer your question, I will be reaching out to you directly. So the pandemic response to CalFresh. So there has been a lot of updates. We could go to the first slide. So one of them is the CalFresh emergency allowance. So in order to increase food benefits in response to coronavirus, um, these are a couple of things that have happened and what obviously affects the economy. So the emergency allowance has been raised for each household. So if they were not currently receiving the maximum amount, they are now able to receive the maximum amount for each household. So let's just say there's a household that qualify for the minimum, which right now is $19. The following month, they're able to get the maximum, which is about $234. Don't quote me on that, but it's around that amount. So they have temporary increase 15%. And this has been through the time period of January 1st through September 30th. So again, there's a 15% increase. I am telling everyone, this is really the best time to apply for CalFresh. If any of your clients or anyone that you're working with is in the fence of applying or not, this is the time to apply. Even if you were to get the very bare minimum, you will now get this emergency allowance and try to max you out completely. So this is a great time to apply. Right here, sorry, go back. And I did already mention this. So it also has the minimum has also been temporarily increased. It has been increased from $16 to $19. Again, even if you do qualify for the very minimum, which is $19, you will still get the emergency allowance, which will max you out. So if you remember the slides that I showed you earlier, you will be getting the maximum amount. And right here, once you see the slide, sorry, let me just drink some water. So you could check on that link and you're able to see what the 15% looks like. You can go to the next slide. So I know we touched upon students, so the pandemic response to students. So a student is now eligible. It's been expanded in two ways. So if you have been approved for work study and you anticipated working, they are now eligible potentially to meet this exemption. If a student is determined to have $0 expectancy from the family contribution, they are also exempt from the student rules. So this has also made it easier for students now to apply for these benefits. Before, it was really hard for them, and I remember, if you remember a little earlier, I showed you the list of the exemptions. They had to at least work 40 hours or be an EOPS. They have made it a lot easier for students to apply. So this is also a great time for them to apply. Go to the next slide. So do you have any questions? Just gonna check. So I'm seeing right here from Myra, if they're a married couple and not legally separated, but are not longer physically supporting the family, is there a way to go around that? So this, it all depends in the household. So if they are living together, most likely they want them to apply together. I have worked personally with one case that they were able to apply separately, but they had to really prove that they were buying and preparing their food separately, that they were separated in the process of getting, divorced or whatever the case was. So if they live separately, it's a lot easier for each one of them to apply. So hopefully that answers your question. Just going to read a couple more here. If they are asylum seekers, are they eligible? Again, they may potentially be eligible for the program. It also depends what type of asylum they're seeking. So it varies. I'm just going to read a couple more. So right here, I'm seeing a question for a family who has just one child that is a citizen. Will they receive funds according to the household size of one or for the whole family? So for that, they would only receive funds if eligible for that one individual. So it would be just for the household of one, not for the whole family. Can you apply for food stamps if you live with your parents, but you have your own lease and with the landlord and work full-time, but the person is 24 years old? So if you live with your parents, but you are buying and preparing your own food separately and you're over the age of 22, yes, they can apply separately. Let me see if there's anything else. I think I covered some of those. Again, if I didn't answer your question, I'll make sure to get back to you directly. CalFresh has a lot of ins and outs, and I could probably give a training to our staff and also through our comm partners, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And we give about a 2-week training. So just to give you an example of how much information you get really from CalFresh. You go to the next slide. So communicating with clients or whoever you're serving. We go to the next slide. So I know there's a lot of myths and fears out there. I listed a couple of them, but have you heard, if you could share on the chat room what myths you have heard out there about CalFresh and why someone's not applying, that would be great. And I'll just read out the other ones we have here. And these are the ones we frequently hear out in the community. So I have heard, I can't get it because someone in the family doesn't have approved immigration status, or my lawyer told me not to apply for the benefits, or can I own or be buying a home and still qualify for CalFresh, or I have a job, can I still qualify for CalFresh, or will it hurt my chances of becoming a citizen? So this is something that we hear frequently. So is there anything else? Oh, thank you, Courtney. I see that you definitely shared one of them. Yes, not trusting the government and how it's going to affect them some way. Perfect. Yep, because I'm afraid I have to pay it back. That's the one that I have heard. Perfect. Yeah, these are awesome. Yes, we have heard most of these too. If you could go to the next slide. So the first one, benefits are eligible for the household members who are a citizen or legal permanent residents. This includes children or adults of any age. So that's how you could kind of debunk that one if possible. Is also, my lawyer told me not to apply for benefits. So applying for benefits will not affect your immigration status. CalFresh is not cash aid. Programs like WIC and free lunch and at school do not hurt their immigration status. So it's kind of good to try to compare it to WIC or children receiving free food at school. Yes, owning a home does not count against CalFresh. Also, you can have a retirement or college savings and still qualify. And then for I have a job, can I qualify for CalFresh? Yes, as long as your gross income is below the income limit. All right, so I know there was some other ones I'm just gonna see. So my children have to pay it back. We have definitely heard this a lot out in the community. Your children will obviously, they will not owe this. I do know that there sometimes people do owe, and most of the time is because they didn't disclose their income, or if they were not working and then started working and then still receiving the benefits. That's most of the time when someone has to pay back any benefits that they received. But these are awesome. See, all right, may I go to the next slide? All right, and here is a really good link about, give me one second. Right. Will it hurt my chances of, to becoming a citizen? And I saw that a lot in the chat. So the short answer is no. Long answer is also no. So I want to make sure that you have the resources. Protecting immigrant families is such a great resource. It has all the information, latest information on public charge, and a really great resource that you could share. Next slide. So we want to see how you can connect clients to our food resources. I know there's a couple questions out there, so I'll be able to cover that right now. Next slide. So here are some talking points for food insecurity. So when you're speaking with your clients, so we all know it's expensive living here. Food bank programs help you save money on food so that you can use the extra money for bills. So that's kind of one way you could address that. For CalFresh, as we could tell them, we also have, we can also help with a program called CalFresh. CalFresh is a debit card that allows you to go to most grocery stores to buy the food that you need. Would you be interested in applying for CalFresh? And just budgeting. Are you using the maximum benefits for you? So that's another one. Next slide. So again, I briefly covered CalFresh eligibility and also our food bank programs. You can partner with us. You can be one of our, through our partner, which is a Connection Application Assistant Partners. You can be one of our outreach partners, so you could display our second harvest materials on your website or social media. So I have a link here where you could find our flyers or social media content. You could refer or your clients to us, so that's another way. You could host us, so you could, if you are having any presentations and you would like us to speak to your clients directly, we'll be more than happy to do that. Virtually and also in person if it's at outdoors at a location where our team may potentially be able to go out there and speak to your clients is something that we can do. And last is that you can be one of our partners where you can screen and refer clients to Second Harvest to submit CalFresh applications, and where we will give you a more in-depth training on CalFresh so that you're able to assist your clients. And through this program, you will be helping, you can then help people apply directly for CalFresh, and then we will provide the support that the clients need in order to ensure that they get the benefits that they need. So these are some of the ways that we could partner up. You could go to the next slide. So when you give our 1-800 number, we do have 18 bilingual staff, and we do answer most of our calls live on the spot. We are open weekdays, 8 a.m. through 5. They could also text us, or they could go to our online and fill out a form, and we could also get in contact with them that way. Okay, next slide. All right, and I believe this is this the last one? Can you go to the next slide? All right, so here is my contact information. I see that we still have some time, so I may still be able to answer some of your questions. So feel free to just jot down any questions you may have, or I'm not sure if, was this a good time to unmute if someone just wanted to ask their question?
Yeah, absolutely. If someone wants to come off mute, there's a raise hand feature, or let us know, and we're happy to assist you if necessary.
Perfect. And I just saw quickly, like, what languages does our team speak? So we have Spanish, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Mandarin, Cantonese, and then any other languages. We do have our language line that we're still able to help our clients. All right, I'm just going to check. Does anyone have any questions? And I just will go. Okay, so if you could go back to our 1-800 number, that would be great. There you go. All right, so some of the questions that do people who are currently have DACA qualify? And I'm assuming this question is for CalFresh. That individual, if only that person is applying in the household and has DACA, they currently right now are not eligible. Hopefully this changes in the future, but as of right now, they wouldn't be eligible for CalFresh. I'm just looking at some. So I have a question here is, do you know how long the recertification process is? I am unable to access this online account to see the status of the reserve. Who can you call? So if you are having any issues with your case, you could call the county directly. So be it San Mateo County or Santa Clara County. I realize I don't have those numbers here, but I could share those numbers with you directly. Is there any other questions or someone that may want to just see?
I do have a question. I put it on the chat, but I know that the chat is getting busy. This is Myra from Sacred Heart Community Service. My question is, how can we become better advocates and maybe the middle person in the process so that we can be the ones helping our clients once the application is submitted? The reason why I'm asking this question is because most of the clients that we have helped, they are Spanish speakers, and maybe about 25%, 35% of the clients that we have helped, they have expressed that the case managers in the county, they have been rude, and they have been some incidents as well in which the case managers just don't want to help out. So how can we become better at serving the clients at the same time advocating for them and be the ones in a way taking the lead so that our clients get served and assisted the way they should be?
Yeah, no, Myra, that's a fantastic question. I could just tell you a couple of things we're doing because not only do we help them apply for CalFresh, we want to make sure that they're going to get their benefits, right? And most of the time they do get stuck on the process. So one thing we do with a client is try to self-advocate. We want to make sure that they're also able to get in contact with the county themselves. So we first share the number with them, making sure that they know who to get in contact with. After the client has tried themselves to self-advocate for what either, let's just say they have any missing documents or trying to get a hold of their caseworker, they're still having a hard time. We then try to step in and call directly the county with the client. So we try to find out what the issue is. If there is any issues, let's just say there is someone that is rude, we try to escalate that directly. We try to see if we could speak to whoever the manager is of the case manager. Or if that doesn't work, we try to escalate it directly to the county. We do have really good contacts and we let them know what the situation is. I just actually got off the phone right before I hopped into this presentation with someone that has been trying to get a hold of their caseworker for 2 weeks. And that's 2 weeks too much. So I made sure that I took that information and escalated that information directly to the county to find out what's going on in that case. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Is there a way that you can potentially share with us your contact person in the county so that that we can also make a connection in a network through this process? Because sometimes the clients, they don't ask the name. Even if the case manager says, "Hey, I'm Maida," let's be honest. If I'm rude to you and you're undocumented and your children are U.S. citizen, people are very shy and they get overwhelmed and they get scared. So they won't remember that my name is Maida. They're just going to remember that it's someone from the county and that she was rude. But I would love to have a direct contact that works with these case managers in this department so that we can have a better conversation about our clients and their application.
No, and that does make sense. I can tell you a lot of the time though, when you do call directly with the client to the county and just asking to speak to their whoever their supervisor is, you're able to then find out what's going on with their case because they do record every single call. So they know who they spoke with last. So if they did have a rude encounter, even if it wasn't directly their caseworker, it was just someone that they called, everything is recorded in the county so that they're able to then follow up with that person directly. And if you want, we could talk offline to see, I could share with you my contact to see if that could also help. But I just know that most of the time, just calling with the client really does help.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? I see we have a little bit more time. If you answer your question on the chat, I haven't been able to get to it. If you wanted to share, you could go ahead and get off mute.
I have a question. My name is Arely. I'm from Sacred Heart Community Services, and I'm the new public benefit coordinator. I actually work with Maida, And I know you mentioned that you have trainings for 2 weeks. Is there any way I could sign up for one of them? Or when are you hosting them? Or how can you get one of those trainings?
Yeah. So the training is actually just for our staff. We have like, I just wanted to show you like for CalFresh, it almost takes 2 training for one of our staff members to fully be trained. But for our indirect partners, so for you potentially, this training is about 2.5 hours. And if you can, you could go ahead and contact me directly and I could set that training up. Sometimes we do need follow-up training, especially if you're working with a certain population. So if you're working with the unhoused population, or if you're working, I know I talked a little bit more about students. We could then give you a follow-up training if needed. And then again, we would be in constant communication to make sure you have the tools that you need to make sure that you're able to connect them to not just our food bank programs, but also to CalFresh. So you could go ahead and contact me. And I really do urge anyone on this call, if they do want to partner up with us and help their clients directly apply for CalFresh, that they do contact me so that we could provide them the training. And again, it's only 2.5 hours, so it's not those 2 weeks. I don't want to scare anyone on this call, so that we're able to give you the tools that you need.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other
Hi,
questions?
Maria. I have a question. My name is Helen. I'm a family advocate at ACCI. So the question is, if a client win like a lottery, let's say like $1,000, do they have to report it?
Oh, the lottery. That's a really good question. I believe they do. I still probably need to look this one up. I have a feeling they do need to report the lottery, but I probably need to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
I feel like
Okay.
it's probably considered an unearned income. We don't get too many of those, so that's why I'm trying to dig in my brain right now.
Oh, okay. So, okay then, I'll find out. Thank you, Maria.
Okay. Sure.
Maria, I have a question for the training that you mentioned, the 2-hour training. What exactly would that cover? And then my second question, when you say it would help them to directly apply to CalFresh, does that mean simply using the state online application portal, or is this something else when you're talking about directly applying?
Sure. So for the 2.5 hour training, it just goes more in depth of the eligibility for CalFresh. So we'll be just covering more eligibility, really talk more about the household composition, really go into a legal permanent resident and what type of documentation is asked. So we'll cover just more in-depth information so that you can then help the client, and that's what I meant, you can help the client directly apply for CalFresh. And the portal that we use, which is super user-friendly, is getcalfresh.org. And it takes about maybe 10 minutes to help the client apply for CalFresh. If they have a larger household, it may take a little bit longer. But you will be applying through one of our sister accounts so that your applications are recorded in the dashboard that they have.
Thank you. If we're serving clients outside of Silicon Valley, but we still wanted to take advantage of the training, would it still be the same process where we're connected with your portal and all of those things, or would it be?
Yes. Yeah, we could definitely help you out, especially if maybe you may still help some clients in San Mateo or Santa Clara County, and then maybe some in Alameda or Santa Cruz. We could still help you out. So we'll provide you the foundation that you need.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Maria,
Any other questions?
Yes. Hi, I'm Kathy with the Indian Health Center. I have a client who was forgot to turn in her paperwork, was cut off, and she ended up going to the social service office to get a packet from CalFresh for her to fill it out. The problem is that right now, we're not seeing clients right now as of yet. We're transitioning to do that. But in the meantime, she needs to fill out the packet and she doesn't know how to read and write. Is it possible that the CalFresh staff or her worker can fill out the packet for her and then submit it, or that just can't be done?
Yeah, that definitely can, depending which packet you're referring to. Some can also be online, so you could guide the client through, depending, again, I'm not sure if it's a recertification or the SAR-7 that you're referring to, but you may be
Okay.
able to fill it out through one of the Get CalFresh portal, or even through the county one. So it all depends. You may be able to do that, and you, of course, you could definitely help the client physically fill out the paperwork.
Could the county staff or the CalFresh staff help fill out that paperwork, or?
Which county is it in?
It's in Santa Clara County.
For Santa Clara County, I do know they are seeing people at a limited basis in person, especially for kind of the case that you're referring to. They can see them at the county offices and help them out with their paperwork.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. And I feel like we're almost at time. Any other burning questions?
This is so
All right.
great. Thank you so much. And thank you to folks who are sharing their questions in the chat. And thank you so much to Maria for all this amazing information. We'll definitely stick around for another couple minutes if folks have lingering questions, but just want to plug again to please do share your feedback on this training. We do review every response, and there's only 3 questions for the survey, so we really appreciate your feedback. And we look forward to seeing you again in about a month's time on May 18th and May 20th from 9:30 to 11 for part 2 of this training, which will cover Medi-Cal, Medicare, and Covered California. Also, some reminders for folks on the phone in case you weren't able to see the chat. We will be emailing out a link to the recording of this training, as well as we will again email out the training slides. And the thank yous are rolling in. So thank you again to everyone for taking the time to join us today. And thank you so much to Maria for this amazing information and for being available for any additional questions. We will hang out for another couple of minutes, but in case folks are hopping off for the rest of your day, just wanted to thank you again for joining us, and please do share your feedback on the survey. So thank you. And are there any last questions that we can cover, with appreciation for Maria for staying with us for the hour? Okay, I think that'll do it then. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of this great information. We really appreciate it. Good to see everyone. Take care.